50 over the past 5 years. Your contributions have helped us remain one of the few progressive talk stations in the entire country. To show our appreciation, we're offering 2 special gifts this year. First, the official 2025 AM 950 radio calendar. It features photos from Matt McNeil's adventures over the past year and key dates in progressive and AM 950 history. Second is a signed copy of Thom Hartmann's latest book, The Hidden History of the American Dream, The Demise of the Middle Class and How to Rescue Our Future. Here's how you can claim these gifts as a thank you for becoming an AM 950 member. For the AM 950 calendar, make a recurring monthly donation of at least $10 or a one-time donation of at least $30. For both the calendar and the signed copy of Thom Hartmann's latest book, donate at least $25 per month or a one-time gift of at least $100. Visit am950radio.com to become a member today and receive your thank you gifts. Thanks for supporting independent progressive media with AM 950.
Supporting the best local and independently owned restaurants in the Twin Cities has never been easier. You'll find an expansive list of local dining options at eatlocalminnesota.com, from classic American comfort food to authentic flavors from around the world. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking cuisine, the Great Wall Chinese restaurant has been a local favorite since 1981. They offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include the sesame chicken, imperial beef, and Peking duck. The Great Wall restaurant is located off 45th and France, with takeout available too. More at greatwallrestaurant.us. Nightingale on 26th and Lyndale is the ultimate venue for unforgettable gatherings. Whether big or small, your event will be a hit with delicious food and drinks served in a warm and inviting atmosphere. Plus, Chef Carrie's special creations add that extra touch. Craft cocktails, curated drinks, and a diverse menu make Nightingale perfect for any celebration. More at nightingalempls.com.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 5 below, wind chills of 22 below. Then Thursday, sunshine with a high of 7, but wind chills of 18 below. The Great Wall has been serving up Mandarin and Sichuan favorites for almost 45 years. Check them out on France Avenue along the Minneapolis Edina city line. View their menu or place a takeout order at greatwallrestaurant.us.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up. They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut. He need cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Heid. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local and national Native news and events. And as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega. This episode is presented in partnership with the City of Minneapolis for Minneapolis AIR, American Indian Relations, who host monthly conversations on the second Wednesday of the month regarding happenings that impact our Native communities in Minneapolis.
Hey, we are grateful for the partnership to keep up to date on topics that can better support our largest urban Indian population in the country. And I'll pass things over to Minneapolis AIR American Indian Community Specialist and guest host, Christine McDonald.
Thank you, Robert. I'm so happy to be here with you guys. Buju, Ogadaki, Gabuik, Nindishnakas, Ajijak Nindundem. I am Christine McDonald. I'm the American Indian Community Specialist with the City of Minneapolis. And joining us today, our guests are Commander Yolanda Wilks and Kevin Carlisle of the Minneapolis Police Department Settlement Agreement Implementation Team. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We're going to jump right into our questions and conversation. So, Commander Wilks, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do for the city?
Thanks for having me, first of all. So I am the commander of the implementation unit, actually the implementation division. And within the implementation division for the Minneapolis Police Department, our role is focusing on the MDHR, Minnesota Department of Human Rights settlement agreement, and ultimately, and the DOJ consent decree that will eventually be coming down the pipeline as well. So within implementation, it's just to oversee the parameters of both of those agreements and make sure that they're implemented. And it's something that will meet the community needs, as well as overall the big picture, getting us towards our common goal. And that's effective policing.
How about a little bit about your experience in the department, how long you've been with the police department?
I've been with the department for over 16 years. I worked in just about every precinct within Minneapolis, worked in several specialty units. I had a lot of experience. I think about the only precinct I haven't directly worked in, but have some experience is 2nd Precinct, and that's Northeast, Southeast Minneapolis. The majority of my career is spent downtown, 3rd Precinct, and Northside. Moving forward just a little bit with my experience, I found that there was a lot of gaps in the understanding for myself personally, as far as things that I wanted to know, things I wanted to further myself in, as far as how we were interacting with the community, what we were doing. I wanted to make sure I understood it clearly and that I was it. So if I don't understand what I'm doing, it's hard for me to go out there and implement what I'm doing or actually do the work. And so I found that, going to a lot of, asking questions about use of force and asking questions about certain jobs that I was interested in, I might as well just apply to be an instructor so that I get more, get more experience, more understanding. And then instead of being the one asking these questions, I could be the one answering those questions on a level where you understand, not assuming that everyone has those answers or everyone understood or understands how to do this and do it correctly. So I worked in several different specialty units, bike, became an instructor in different capacities. I was a use of force instructor. I was a procedural justice instructor. And ultimately, I think the last part of instructions or being an instructor was emergency driving. I didn't want to be that person that was that couldn't drive. But I also know when you become an instructor, they teach you more advanced. And I wanted to know like all the nuances, so that I can come back and help someone else.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for the city?
Yes, I can. As you stated, my name is Kevin Carlisle, born and raised in North Minneapolis. So I'm from the city, graduated from North High School, Polar. I have a master's in business administration. I'm also a licensed social worker. That's like my education background. I've been in human services for over 20 years. I've worked for nonprofits in the city of Minneapolis, probably the majority of my life. I'm a person who has a passion when it comes to being involved with the community. So many people touched me when I was growing up. When I grew up, the community center was like a cornerstone of the neighborhood. Parents knew who worked at the community centers. They helped you with your homework. You had the snacks. You had the programs there. First time I ever got to go to camp, ride a horse, was through the programs there. So the community centers was such a big impact on me. The reason I do the work I do, because so many people took time out of their schedules and gave me their time when I was younger and coming up. So the work that I do right now in my current role as being the manager of community engagement in the Minneapolis Police Department, it allows me to give back to so many who gave to me, to also be a voice for some people who feel like their voices are not being heard, and also be the bridge with the community as well as the police department, and try to continue to build those relationships, the trust, and everything back up in the community.
Yeah. It's important. Thank you.
Thank
Commander
you.
Wilks, can you tell us more what the implementation is tasked with doing?
Yeah, of course. So we've been tasked with carrying out the parameters stated before within the MDHR settlement agreement and the DOJ consent decree. And what that looks like is we had to develop this unit full of from scratch, having no blueprint, full of civilians, with the exception of 3 sworn officers or sworn employees. And they had to specialize in different areas of the agreement to carry out the parameters. And so when we look at those different subsections or units within the division, we have the community engagement that was really just focused on community engagement, engaging the community, bringing the community together so that we can do this together collaboratively, work out the parameters. And so we also have within that division is the policy folks, and those policy folks, they were there to not only take back what was coming back from the community engaging or the engagement sessions, but they were there to look at those notes, to digest those notes, to incorporate those notes and come up with a revised policy. And I know you're probably going to ask this sooner or later, but that's been a task, having a unit or division that was fairly new and still had to be acclimated to the city itself and also to the community. Within that, we also have our training SMEs who have the task of looking at the policy once it's been revised and once it's been approved, and they have to develop a curriculum based on that policy that met the needs of the community. We have our data analysts, and those data analysts has been tasked with, and I'll just put them along with the administrative analysts because we have both of them, but they've been tasked with pulling numbers, looking at where we're falling short, what we can improve on through data. So data-driven approaches. And so with that, they've been tasked with bringing those numbers back so that we can ultimately, we can ultimately have a solution and not be looking for the solution. We know exactly where the problem lies. Mm-hmm. We also have within that unit our compliance folks, and our compliance, they're there to show accountability and oversight.
Yeah.
And that's mainly what their role is. So we're looking at everything and bringing it all together.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, we'll be right back. You're listening to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Programming on Native Roots Radio is supported in part by MNsure. Looking for health insurance, but not sure where to start? MNsure has you covered. You can find discounts, compare private health plans, and see if you qualify for free or low-cost insurance. Plus, get help from an expert so you save on the coverage you need. Enroll online by December 18th for coverage starting January 1st. Get started today at mnsure.org. That's mnsure.org.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
As we age, it's important to invest in our health and to help protect it. Like the flu, COVID-19 is always changing. That's why it's important to stay up to date on your vaccines. By getting the flu and COVID-19 vaccines, you can renew your body's defenses and lower the risk of getting sick. Get your health boost and protect yourself against the flu and COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Again, that's vaccines.gov. Vaccines.gov.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This episode is supported by the City of Minneapolis with Minneapolis AIR, American Indian Relations, and here's our guest host, Christine McDonald.
Welcome back. Thank you. I'm Christine McDonald, American Indian Community Specialist with the City of Minneapolis. And joining us today are Commander Yolanda Wilks and Kevin Carlisle with the Minneapolis Police Department's implementation team. We're going to jump right back into our conversation. Kevin, can you tell us how you have been engaging the community in this process, including specifically the Native community?
Yes, I can, Christine. So when we began with the implementation unit, we had a court order document that we had to do 9 community engagement meetings per the settlement agreement with Minneapolis Department of Human Rights and the Minneapolis Police Department. So in doing that, we did that between August through September of 2023. We did 9 community engagement meetings, which we wanted to focus on different parts of the city of Minneapolis, try to have meetings throughout the city of Minneapolis with their different locations of the precincts. The topics that we focused on was use of force, stop, search, and arrest, citations, non-discriminatory policing, and mission, vision, values, and goals. What we wanted to do was get the community's input on what they thought about the policies and did they understand what was going on. One of the things, and being a resident, born and raised in Minneapolis, one of the things we wanted to make sure from the police department that they were part of the process as these policies are being created. So we wanted to get their input on those each topics and do it throughout the city. And then the policies will continue to be changed and brought back to the community for more input. But we really wanted to get the community's input as the changes are happening within the police department. To your question pertaining to what are we doing in the Native American community, as we did the 9 community engagement meetings throughout the city of Minneapolis, we also did 5 culturally specific meetings as well with the Native American community, African American, East African, the Latino community, and the LGBTQIA plus community as well. What we continue to do, and we've been doing for about a year and a half now, we're very involved in Native community meetings. We go to the public safety, which is bi-weekly, and we do that at All Nations Church. And then we also go to we do that at Minneapolis American Indian Center. Then we go to the Unsheltered and Opioids meeting at All Nations Church. And that one, the Unsheltered one, is the one we go to bi-weekly. And then the public safety one, we go once a month. And we've been doing that for a year and a half. And it allows us to know what's going on and what are the concerns from the Native American community, which I'm able to bring information back to Commander Wilks. And then she's able to talk to Chief O'Hara about if there's any concerns or things that are going on as well. It allows us to also build relationships, not only when we're looking for information, but also build relationships that are genuine at the same time for me and my staff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great way to be there and hear firsthand from community as it's going on, concerns and needs. Thank you for being at those meetings. Commander Wilks, are there opportunities still for people to get involved in the feedback process?
Yeah, absolutely. So Minneapolis, we have an implementation updates page that they can go on, and we post current updates as soon as we get them. Also on that page, we just put on a Minnesota mn.gov delivery. So if you want to sign up for automatic updates, when we post things, if they subscribe, they'll automatically get sent the email. I would urge though, because we just started that, we wanted to make the process smoother, that if they so happen not to get an email back, to just send us an email so we can check into it. We're finding that sometimes people are putting their email in incorrectly, or it just could be an error use. So I just want to put that out there. But if they want to sign up for automatic updates on the implementation updates page, that will be the fastest way to get updates. That page is constantly being updated.
It's great.
And I think to answer your question, what we like to do, and we're working through policy right now, which is such a big task, but eventually we would like to have separate meetings, probably once a month with certain community members, just to kind of update them before those policies hit the page or the updates page. So instead of saying we're working on this policy, we would like for Kevin and his team to be out there within the community saying, hey, this is the upcoming policy we're going to be looking at, to give people and the readers enough time or more time to digest, because we don't all speak the same language, especially when it comes to policy. So giving people a heads up before those policies get sent out for review.
Right. Thank you. Kevin, where and how can people learn about the implementation unit's work that you're doing?
I think Commander Wilks kind of touched on it. If you go to the implementation update page, which is on the city of Minneapolis, you can go to www.minneapolismn.gov/resident services /public safety /police public safety investigations settlement. That is a lot. But
I'm wondering if you could just like search implementation team once you get to the city's website.
You could.
I bet.
If I could just jump in, I was just going to say, you can just, once you get to the city website, search implementation updates. It'll bring you directly to that page. And we can also send a link for you guys to post as well.
Great. Yep, we can do that. Thank you. And Commander Wilks, I've heard about a group called ALIFA. Can you tell me what ALIFA is and how they're involved in the implementation work or the consent decree work?
Absolutely. So ALIFA, they are the independent evaluator who was selected by the city of Minneapolis to oversee compliance for the MDHR, both MDHR settlement agreement and the DOJ consent decree. So they will be monitoring us for compliance. They will be updated on their website as well. As a matter of fact, we have on March 17, we have our first year, year mark coming up. And there's some things that we're supposed to be in compliance with within that first year. We're working towards that. And ALIFA will be presenting that information out, whether we are in compliance or not. Currently, they're working with the city. They've given us their measurements on how they're going to measure us, and now it's for us to do the work.
Again, the community can keep an eye on the engagement work that's happening. I know ALIFA is that independent evaluator. They recently did do a couple of meetings. One was at Sabathani and one was at North High, actually, Kevin and Haley. But it was kind of more like I felt like it was more like an introduction. This is who we are, and these are the things that we're going to be reporting back. So it sounds like March will be the first time that they'll be actually providing some real feedback about work.
So I believe they're going to provide that real feedback in March. And I also will say this, that they're going to be out every 4 months to hold community engagement sessions. And this was the conversation I had with them. So, and I think it's part of the agreement. Or if it's not part of the agreement, this is something that they're going to be doing every 4 months.
I think it's their contracted agreement with the city, I think. But as far as providing, I know myself, that's one of the things I like to do is push out meeting information around that. And I'll be able to provide community with notification from ALIFA of their upcoming meetings too.
Yes.
So, and then Kevin, does the settlement agreement even affect the Native community?
Does the settlement agreement affect?
How does it affect the community? If it does, so
yes. The settlement agreement, I will say it affects the Native community. I think it affects all communities. I think the key thing is, what we want to focus on is people feeling, things are lawful. There's non-discriminatory policing that's happening. Better public safety support for Minneapolis, reforms addressing issues like use of force supervision and accountability, and also just build and enhance trust, wellness for officers. I think this is not just the community, but it's also the Minneapolis Police Department is the community as well. And how do we bring both together, and how do we move forward as we continue to build the trust back in the community, and also be transparent as much as possible so people feel comfortable and open when it comes to being part of the city of Minneapolis and being part of this community. And I know Chief O'Hara, I know Commander Wilks, I know there's so many, the chief and the commander and officers who are working diligently to make sure that we continue to build the trust and also stand by the side of the officers who support the community, but as well as the community supports the officers as well, as we can continue to try to improve the situation and better make Minneapolis a better police department and lead by example throughout the country.
Thank you. Thank you. I think, the one last thing is to make sure that folks are able to get to the city's website for more information, the city of Minneapolis, and then you can search implementation team and you can learn more about the settlement agreement, the report that came out that prompted the agreement, as well as updates on engagement and how you can participate. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate having you here.
Thank you for allowing us to be here. And we continue to be open to whatever concerns the community has. And we will continue to be out there representing the community as well as the police department and bringing us all together.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be right back. You're listening to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl. J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Step into the world of movement and native culture at Nimiwin, now showing at All My Relations Arts. Nimiwin is translated as Everyone Dance. This moving multimedia exhibition, curated by Josie Hoffman, delves into the connection between movement and identity, drawing inspiration from dance and powwow traditions. It showcases the work of Indigenous artists from Minnesota, emphasizing the fluidity of movement in our bodies, land, and community. Witness Nimiwin and its powerful expression on Indigenous art, on display now through January 18th at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis.
Signing up for $1 bus and train rides with the Transit Assistance Program, or TAP, is quick and easy. Do it straight from your computer or phone by uploading one of the pre-approved documents listed at metrotransit.org/TAP, along with a copy of your ID. They'll mail you a go-to card with a full year of discounted rides. For questions or translation help, call 612-373-3333. That's 612-373-3333.
A home that needs new everything. Plus the kitchen sink. Life math is complicated. Affinity Plus makes it easier. With great rates on a home equity line of credit, we make tackling home projects less stressful. Visit affinityplus.org/rates to learn more today. Affinity Plus Federal Credit Union. Insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
Is your remote workforce putting your company at risk? Cyber criminals are targeting your employees with COVID-19 inspired emails and attacking businesses like yours. Hi, Mark Sommerfeld from Rymark. Rymark has the tools and expertise to enable your employees to work securely from home. If you need help getting your staff to work remotely and securely, call 651-328-8900 or go to rymarkit.com. That's 651-328-8900 or rymarkit.com.
It's the time of the year where we begin to see the snow fly. If your vehicle needs to get ready for the winter driving ahead, take it in for service at Rudy Luther Toyota. Rudy Luther Toyota's service department is top-notch, no matter if you're looking for routine maintenance or bigger service. They're committed to providing you the care and expert service their loyal customers have come to trust. You can schedule an appointment at rudyluthertoyota.com and make sure to check out their website for the latest service specials. To schedule your service, head to rudyluthertoyota.com. That's rudyluthertoyota.com.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low of 5 below, wind chills of 22 below. Then Thursday, sunshine with a high of 7, but wind chills of 18 below. The AM 950 calendar is back as a thank you to everyone who's become a member of AM 950 over the last few years. Head on over to am950radio.com to see how you can get yours.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, I want to welcome everyone back to Minneapolis AIR, presented by Native Roots Radio. We have our guest host and her groovy guest, Christine McDonald here, and she is taking the ball in a good way and running with it. Thanks, Christine. This is really awesome information, and I'm sure everyone's really interested everywhere around Turtle Island. So let's welcome back again.
Miigwech, Robert. I'm enjoying being here. Now, our next guest, for the first time ever, the city of Minneapolis has a poet laureate. Heid Erdrich was just appointed last month. Heid is Ojibwe, enrolled at Turtle Mountain. She has received 2 Minnesota Book Awards, as well as fellowships and awards from the Library of Congress, National Poetry Series, Native Arts and Cultures Foundation, the Loft Literary Center, First Peoples Fund, and others. On Monday, she was honored at the first gathering of the new Minneapolis City Council and presented a new poem written specifically for the occasion. Heid joins us here today. Thank you so much for coming on the program today, Heid.
Miigwech, Christine. Heid Erdrich, Dijinakaz, Jaganashimong, Maajikwe, Indigo, Mukdek, Wikjuing, and Dunjaba, Minawa, Dakota King, Guy Kabikang, and so I'm Heid, and I live here in Minneapolis, grew up in North Dakota and near the System Wapton, Oyate, and I'm enrolled Turtle Mountain.
Thank you. So I understand that being Poet Laureate isn't just an honorary title. Can you tell us about your duties as the new Minneapolis inaugural Poet Laureate?
Well, it's really interesting because it's the first Poet Laureate. I'm sort of introducing people to the position and helping understand what it can be. I have events that I'll do, public events for the city government, as well as for the state of Minnesota if asked. And I get to teach some classes at the Loft Literary Center, as well as do a special project. So it's kind of developing as the year goes on, but that's what I know I'll be doing so far.
Thank you. So your duty as Minneapolis Poet Laureate is to present 2 classes through the Loft Literary Center. Can you tell us about your plans for those classes?
Yeah, those classes will be based around ekphrastic poetry. That's poetry that looks at visual art. I've spent a lot of my work life working with Native American visual artists and others in the Twin Cities. And I find it a huge strength of our city, something that I love to showcase whenever I can, and that I love to, contribute to in ways that I can. So I am going to teach 2 classes about writing about visual art, how poetry and visual art intersect, and also other arts like choreography, and how, Native aesthetic is music and dance and visual art and language all at once. So I hope to bring a little bit of that to my introduction to the role of poet laureate.
That's amazing. Another aspect of your year as Minneapolis Poet Laureate will be a special project of your choosing. Are you able to tell us more about what that project looks like?
Part of becoming the Poet Laureate and being selected for it was that we had to have a plan for what we wanted to do, and I had this overly ambitious plan, but I'll boil it down to listening sessions, poetry listening sessions, where I want to work in at least 4 neighborhoods in the city, probably based on the directions of the city, and listen to what the poets from those communities and other people have to say about their dreams for the city and how they fit in the city, to understand what the poetry is from various communities, and to, familiarize myself with it so that I can bring it back to the community in a form, probably a short poem film, but a form that could be worked into public art.
Oh, that sounds so exciting. I love tying that poem, the poetry, into those spaces, because I know in our community we're not very tied to the brick and mortar of spaces, more into the sense of that location and what that means for us. Have you brought some of your poetry to share with us today?
Yeah, I would love to share the poem, the beginning of a poem that I wrote for the city council meeting on Monday. I decided that I would start with a poem that has multiple parts to it, and I will do a different part in each season throughout the year. So it's a poem for the 4 parts for the city of Minneapolis, and I'll read you just the first part. Winter. This is the city dreaming in its original language, Dakota home mapped on astronomical planes. So streets still chart the stars, tell us where to be in each season. River at spring equinox, sun up. Lake at fall equinox, sundown. This is the city dreaming in winter, into the silence of frozen spaces in this bare year, the quiet broken by wishes, calling down the snow, calling for a home. The city makes its own way home, makes its many ways home. This is the city dreaming under cold and deep skies, on icy streets, moving with care. Winter swallows background noise, makes the perfect place to listen, to hear one another. Snow is just another sign for home. We can laugh at it together, whether we park on the odd side or on the other side, or find our street restricted. We plow on through, we're in it together. When the city dreams in winter, what does it learn? Listen to the city dreaming, calling us home in many languages. Listen to the city dreaming, moving toward a chorus, learning its multiple and singular voice.
That is so beautiful. I love that. There's so much in there that I love, especially where you talk about the streets. What was that part about the streets navigate the stars?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that I noticed living here. And I was told, I lived in St. Paul when I first moved to the Twin Cities, and I was told that a lot of the major roads were old Dakota trails. And one year I was driving down Franklin, headed toward the river, and it was the equinox. And just as the sun popped up, it was right in the middle of the road where you would get to the river. And then later on, I watched to see if it set at the lake side of Franklin in the fall and in fall equinox, and it does. So these old roads are part of how Dakota people mapped their place in the universe, and it's such a very important place to Indigenous people. I really want to celebrate that and invite all kinds of people to understand the place they live.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. I want to thank you for being here today. It was an honor to be at the council when you were presented with your proclamation. And I look forward to working with you and celebrating with you over the next year.
Thanks. It's so great. I'm looking forward to, maybe there's a way I can bring some more Native poets onto AIR. So I look forward to that. The program is fantastic.
This is amazing. Thank you. There is going to be a public celebration of Heid planned next week. It will be from 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday, January 18th at the Loft Literary Center at 1011 Washington Avenue South in Minneapolis. Miigwech, Heid.
Miigwech.
Yeah, thanks. Heid, before you go, I got a quick question. When you lived in St. Paul, were there any roads in St. Paul? Because I've never heard that about Minneapolis, that were old trails. That's really interesting.
Yeah, Ernie Whiteman told me that Snelling in St. Paul was also an old Dakota trail, and there were many that were mapped in a project, which I can't remember the name of right now. But yeah, so both sides of the river.
Wow. And two, I don't know if you have anything. We got a couple more minutes left in this segment. I'm wondering if you have any poem you'd like to read to our listening audience. I hate to put you on the spot, but do you have one handy or by heart that you could to tell our audience?
Well, I'll take a little look, and while I'm looking, I will say something about anybody who can see my avatar. I have a portrait that was done by the late, great Jim Deminy, a very good friend of mine, and it kind of shows my notion of poetry and visual art going together. And I'll read another really short poem that has connections between Native culture as being both poetic and visual, and it concerns dance. And this poem is called Sister Nations. We convene in a long dusk, in the lasting corona of twilight, in our prairie homelands midsummer. We gather beneath our ancestor dancers, vivid whirling, magnetically arrayed giants or solar flares. However we know them, we remain theirs. Glass blue depth at our backs, we ease lush summer skies, a comfort to us. 3 nations of sisters encamped in camp chairs in the dark beyond the dance arena's glare. We thrill together when a bear pushes her way into the circle. Her attitude commands us, her crouched inspection, once round, glancing at everyone in turn, sometimes rushing the crowd. She shakes a warning, claws the air, crosses her paws, then pauses, hunches into the darkness beyond us. Sisters, as her fur brushes past us, dark, warm, soft as this night, her beast breath left a blessing. We gasped and heard her roar, a true bear roar, before she threw her animal robe back and laughed her woman's laugh.
Wow. Beautiful.
I love that one.
Haley, do you have any questions before we let this our poet laureate of Minneapolis go? That is awesome.
I just really love the comparison between the bear and, us as, females, and in Native communities, we're such, matriarch societies. And it's just, I think you have very beautiful words, and thank you for being here today with us.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm such a bear person. I'm Makwa Dodom. So I call my office the Den of Heid Bear Nation, and it's really past my bear sleep nap time. So thank you so much.
we can agree with that.
Hi, Heidi. Thank you so much. Kristen, we have a lot to talk about next segment. This has been just a fabulous inaugural show, and what great guests you have picked to represent this new program that we're partnering with. I'm excited. Let's talk a little bit more. You're listening to Native Roots Radio, Minneapolis AIR. And, we will be right back after this short break.
It's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to struggle. And it's okay to ask for help. It's important that we support one another and work together to end the stigma so that we can start to tell a different story about mental health and well-being in our community. If you're looking for support for yourself or want to find resources for a loved one, visit makeitokay.org to get started. That's makeitokay.org.
As we age, it's important to invest in our health and to help protect it. Like the flu, COVID-19 is always changing. That's why it's important to stay up to date on your vaccines. By getting the flu and COVID-19 vaccines, you can renew your body's defenses and lower the risk of getting sick. Get your health boost and protect yourself against the flu and COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Again, that's vaccines.gov. Vaccines.gov.
Getting bus and train information in your language just got easier. Customers who call Metro Transit at 612-373-3333, again 612-373-3333, are able to select language options at the start of the call. To access information in Spanish, select option 2. For more information about other transit information tools, visit metrotransit.org/Spanish. That's metrotransit.org/Spanish.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents. Just a second here. I have to find out what the name of the show is again. Haley, it's
Minneapolis AIR.
I wanted to see if you were paying attention. Hey, what a great first show, Christine. What great guests, and what a way to celebrate Minneapolis too. And I think just hearing things like there's 130 recognized tribes represented in this in the city of Minneapolis, that blew my mind. Also, the roads. I mean, I've learned 3 or 4 things already just listening to your show here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited for what we can bring in the future to this discussion, and what information we can provide to community. There's a lot going on that people aren't aware of. Like I mentioned, even me growing up in the city of Minneapolis, I didn't know about neighborhood organizations and the opportunity to get involved, nor did I understand how they impacted the community. You know, neighborhood organizations have been around for, some of them have been around for 100 years, and we have had intentional work to make sure that those organizations are representative of the neighborhoods and the residents there. And some of the work that's come out of our department has been to help make sure that we have representation on those boards. And I was here in the department when we were able to see Native representation seen for the first time at the East Phillips neighborhood board, and those were residents out of Little Earth. So there's been a lot of great work done to help make sure that that education and participation happens in the public process.
Yeah, and I wonder too if you could explain a little bit more about mud. And I know we talk a little bit about that on Native Roots Radio, but I know it was brought up today, and maybe you can educate our audience and Haley and I a little bit more about mud.
Sure. So my participation is based on my role at the City of Minneapolis. I support the Memorandum of Understanding, which is entered into with the city and the Metropolitan Urban Indian Directors Group. I think a lot of the things that we see happen in our community are really a result of what we sometimes call the Red Movement. So around the time when AIM originated. So mud itself, what I was taught was it originated as well about 50 years ago, if not more, around the time when we had an influx of folks moving into the city. A lot of people don't really understand or realize that American Indians were also sold the American dream. You know, once we were forced onto reservations, they wanted to continue the assimilation. And told us, you know, come down to these cities, we'll provide housing for you, we'll make sure your kids are educated, we'll provide work for you. And a lot of times when our people showed up to these urban areas, there wasn't anything in place to do that. And so we naturally seen American Indian organizations come into place. And as they came into place, they really came and formed a group together to support each other. At that time, a lot of the funding for our programming came out of government entities. A lot of times it's from the city, it's from the county, it's from the state. What I was taught was that they came together to learn how to work with those entities and provide services and programs for our community. And so that still happens today. MUD is a collaborative of nonprofit organizations and the leadership from those organizations. So those are what are called voting members. And so MUD really is their, they represent themselves and they represent the community that they serve. So a lot of times the decisions that they make are in ways to best serve the community. And they have a monthly meeting where the voting members meet. And then there are also 7 subcommittees that MUD hosts. And the subcommittees are where we really look to see community participate. We have, I can't sure if I can, off the top of my head, there's public safety. We used to have a housing subcommittee, but it now has been reprogrammed to be the Opioid and Unsheltered Community Crisis Response Committee, Health and Wellness, Employment and Economic Development, Arts and Culture, Education, which is really Phillips Indian Educators, as well as Family Preservation, which that one seems, that one is more focused on Indian child welfare.
Wow. Hey, we're here with Christine McDonald, and this is a special edition of Native Roots Radio entitled Minneapolis AIR, American Indian Relations. And I thought it was interesting too, and being an old person that I am, I don't mind being called Indian, and it was fun that if it was, I always say, if it was good enough for American Indian movement, it's good enough for me to be called that. But it's a process. Words mean a lot, and I'm glad you guys explained the title of the show as well as you did.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I got hit with. I think myself, my personal preference is Native. I prefer Native American. But in one of my first community meetings, there were a couple people who didn't agree with the term Native. And so there was a couple of community people who really gave that support, as well as why it should be the American Indian. And I think that really gives the city as a government entity some footing to use that language and stick with it based on the historical terminology that's been used.
Right. And I think that's important because it's sometimes, for people listening to the show and our Native community and also our white allies to fumble along that, what to call us sometimes. And I'm sure you go by the same thing that Haley and I do. We prefer being called Ho-Chunk. I mean, you don't, but we do.
It might be a little awkward. Yeah, myself. Like when I introduce myself, I say I'm Anishinaabe and Hunkpapa. Yeah, so even within that, it's not just the tribe, but actually the nation of people that I'm a part of.
Yeah, well, I'm excited.
Identity gets more complicated, because myself too. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to talk about February 17th a little more, and maybe we can get somebody on to talk about that before we have our monthly get-together, too, on Native Roots Radio, because at the convention center, I wonder if you can just elaborate a little bit on that with the last couple minutes we have on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that, because we have been doing this conference since 2012. And we had only 1 year, which was COVID, when we weren't able to do the conference. And so it's been during my whole duration with the department. And this is the first year that I'm co-lead on it. So I'm happy to be able to talk with it. And I hope next month I'll be able to get my my partner, the other co-lead, to be on the show with me as well. This is a yearly event that brings residents of Minneapolis, community groups, neighborhoods, and local government together. The conference is held at the Minneapolis Convention Center. There's opportunities to be involved as a workshop presenter, exhibitor, or a volunteer. anyone planning to apply to be an exhibitor for the conference can do so online at our webpage. It's probably easiest just to search City of Minneapolis Community Connections Conference. One thing that is really interesting is it's grown every year that we haven't been in COVID. So I have invited folks, and the folks that I invite, when you think of something that the government's going to put on, it's kind of a little doesn't really sound really exciting, but everybody who has come has really had a good time coming. And the lunch is free, the event is free. It's cold in February, so you might as well come in and get to know people.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to say congratulations on co-hosting and doing a great job. You did a great job and well prepared and great guests, and I can't wait for next month.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity and partnership, Robert.
Yeah, we really do too, and we appreciate all the work you've done over the years for our Native people in the city of Minneapolis. Hey, you were listening to Minneapolis AIR, which is Minneapolis Indian Relations, supported by Native Roots Radio. We'll be back tomorrow. We're still here. We are the seventh generation.
And free Leonard Peltier.
Now.
You want to feel important? You want to be